Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. I am Jeanne Gallagher, and I am here with Denise. And I want to say our Denise because you are our Denise. And Denise is here we're talking about the importance of building muscle later in our life and making sure we're feeding our body correctly because Denise always says, I should wait for everybody else to answer this, eat real food, but eating enough real food and making sure that you're providing your body an opportunity to actually build and grow because it takes a lot of work later on in life. And there's one more segment. What are we going to be adding to all of this?
Well, as we were just talking, there's one point that I want to make from last time that I'll get back to. Today, I want to talk a little bit about mindset around this. As
Mm,
we're getting older, so many women get into this mindset that's like, oh, it's just my body now. And they just kind of give up and they're like, I can't fix it. Here's the deal. You're not broken. You're under
mhm,
muscled. And that's something that's fixable.
mm. I
So
love that term,
fixable,
under
right? Under
muscled.
muscled.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, how many women do we know that, when they wave, right? There's all the jiggle here. I mean, I got a little bit, I got a pretty good muscle there.
Yeah,
So
look at
building muscle,
that.
everyone. So there's no jiggle there, just a little bit. But I have something to continue to work on. And
Hmm.
life is a work in progress, right? Everything is a work in progress. So I do want to go back real quickly. You started the segment talking about eat real food, and that's really where we need to start. We need to make sure that we're paying attention to the healthy foods that we're eating. One of
Yeah.
the things when we talk about building muscle is we need to pay attention to quality protein,
Mm.
right? Protein in this time of our life is so
So
important.
important.
Um, muscle and protein go together, right? Muscle needs protein in
Mhm.
order to really to grow and um, to grow muscle and to maintain muscle. And it's really hard when people say, "Oh, but I can't eat that much. I can't eat that much meat." That's okay. You don't have to eat meat. There are plenty of plant-based protein sources,
Mhm.
but you do have to really pay attention. Um, plant-based protein sources are not. Oh, I'm sure they're not gonna be happy with me. They're not equal to animal-based proteins. They just are not,
Mhm.
right? They don't necessarily have the same structure. There's no heme iron in there, right? And we know that a lot of people who are specifically vegetarian can become iron deficient. So these are some things that we also, in addition to everything else, if you're focusing on plant-based proteins, you really need to pay attention to as well. I know
It's
so many.
possible. It's just going to take more work. In that, I think that's the thing about the plant-based piece that
Mhm.
that goes back to the eat real food. That's really important. Is there are a lot of plant-based options that are prepared
Mhm.
and pre-prepared. So understanding what goes into that particular food item and going back to the basics because you
Absolutely.
can you can provide your body with protein in a plant environment, but you might have to supplement in some other areas, but also making sure you're not finding all of the highly processed plant based food because that's what's on the market so much lately, and it's just really hard to work around that.
Yeah, the workaround is not to buy them. It really is.
Right.
If tofu and tempeh, beans
Hmm.
and legumes, nuts and seeds have great amounts of protein. Pea
Hmm.
protein is really beneficial. Soy
Sure.
protein, right? There's lots of protein, but and that's great if that's the road people want to go down. So I think it's important enough to mention, the two types of protein. And yes, you
Hmm.
can get enough, but this is a time where you need to know exactly how much protein you need for your body.
Hmm.
And that said, this is a time where you might want to work with someone to understand that better.
Yeah,
The
it makes a
2000,
huge difference.
right, like the
Finding a
RDA
nutrition coach to
says.
do that.
Absolutely. RDA says, the calorie, 2000 calories is what we should all be eating. There's no freaking way. I'm 5 foot tall. There's no
Mm,
way 2000 calories is what I need. I said about 1400. That's about what my body needs, right?
mhm.
Between, what is burning just sitting still or sleeping and what I
Right.
need to keep my metabolism going. So again, what does this all, what are we focusing on here? All of these things have to do with muscle, building muscle. So plant proteins, animal proteins, protein here when it comes to your diet with a little d, meaning what you
Mhm.
eat, is essential in this time. Because if we're not eating enough protein, we don't feel well. If you're starting your workouts, like we've been talking about in the last 2 segments, if you start your strength training, you're not going to have the energy
Mhm.
that you need. And
And yeah,
without that,
you're not gonna perform like you should. Yeah.
right. And you're
Like you
not going to
could,
get
not you should, but that you
you
could, to
could.
get the
Right.
benefit of the time that you're gonna spend doing the thing.
Exactly. If you're going to
Mhm.
do this, we need to do it right. And it's not, there are three, there are more than one segment. It's eat real food, right? Muscles, for strength training for muscle and bone, and then
Mhm.
the stress management and rest. And I really believe that um, this segment, you're not broken, you're under muscled. This is really about stress management. Yes, it's about mindset. But when you have this crazy mindset, like, I'm broken, this is just the way my body is. I can't do this. I can't lift weights. I don't want to look like, a bodybuilder. Really,
Not
ladies,
gonna
you're not
happen.
right. You're not built like a man. You're not a man. You don't have that much testosterone. And by the way, it's decreasing anyway. So that's not going to happen. Right. But we can get into this negative Nelly mindset where, kind of feel like your body is betraying you, it's just aging. We're all aging. Guess what? None of us are getting younger, right?
Mhm.
The simple fact really is we're not supporting muscle and metabolism correctly. That's
Right.
not mindset, right?
Yeah. I like how you put that in comparing it to what the RDA says. I'm 5'7", so I'm a couple of inches taller than you. And
Seven.
and and my calories are from my amazing nutrition coach Megan are are 1800,
Mhm.
and my calories are set to muscle build.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Mhm. Absolutely. And this is something that most of us don't understand because we don't take the time or pay the money to actually work with a
Mhm.
professional who knows how to help us. Right?
Right.
We go to our friends. I don't know what to do about this. Oh, well, this product worked for me. And then they get into the supplement craze. Not that all supplements are bad. Supplements are
Mhm.
there for a reason, right? But there, there's not a supplement that's going to, increase your muscle mass on its own, right? There are products that help, creatine, amino acids. Jeanne, help me. I can't think of some of them.
Yeah, no, you're right. And there's a whole list of them. But without food and without exercise, those are not going to do anything.
Mhm. And let's not forget proper hydration also, since we're talking
Then
about
there's that.
exercise and food. Proper hydration is essential because most women are, we're not drinking enough water.
Mhm.
Um, and then we have the people who are drinking too much water. So really, you have to really think about it. Just walking around with a bottle of water, chugging it here and there is probably not the way to stay hydrated. But it's another one of these things. We do need to be a little bit more mindful. And again, that kind of goes back to a little bit of mindset, right? But when we're in this negative mindset and we're not paying attention to what we can do to fight aging, right?
Mhm.
It's discouraging, but it also leads to inconsistency with what we're eating, with our exercise. And a lot of people just give up altogether. They're like, because they haven't, again, taken the time or spent the money to work with a professional. It doesn't have to be a long time. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. But you do need
Mhm.
to understand what's going on and what's best for you, right? And that is going to take the whole mindset piece out of the equation. So it's more about, I guess, when it comes to the mindset, reframing the whole narrative, right? Midlife isn't like you're not declining, life is changing, but it's a chance to actually, rise up and be a stronger person mentally,
Mhm.
physically, and emotionally, right? But of course, that starts with education, support, and a clear strength training plan that
Mhm.
works for midlife women and women going through menopause.
Yeah, you are, if you're under muscled, you are not broken. I love that. And a
Under
little bit of
muscle is
work and
fixable.
guidance. Yes, it is. Denise, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's always fun to chat, Jean.
Hello, everyone. This is Jeanne Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows each show and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter, how does that apply to me, how do I change, what do I need to do, how do I even create a healthy living shopping list, make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach, and you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. My name is Jeanne Gallagher, and I'm excited you're here. If you're listening to us in the airwaves and you'd like to see our shiny faces, hop on over to YouTube, where you can find this recording as well as all of the others. And so thanks for coming today, and I'm excited to introduce Tracy Repchuk to everybody. So hey, Tracy, how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Oh, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yes, this is going to be a great conversation. So before we get started, give us a little bit of your background, and then we're going to dive in and talk about legacy life.
Well, a bit of my background. I started my company at the age of 19 in 1985. It was a software development company. So I've been involved with technology really since the very beginning, including being an internet pioneer, social media, fax technology, remote technology, and then, of course, ChatGPT. So it's been an incredible, fast and fun journey. And I've got 9 number 1 international best-selling books, been interviewed by Forbes 27 times, and I've spoken in 47 countries.
Well, then, you have seen a lot, and you've seen the heat roller paper of the fax machine all the way to ChatGPT.
Yes, exactly. That's right. In fact, I wrote one of the early fax software distribution programs, which you could send out 1 million invoices a month.
Wow, so much has changed. And do you know what's changed for you, or have, when you look back and you look at Tracy back then and Tracy now, and how have all of the changes in technology that we've all experienced really affected you and your business direction?
Well, it definitely has affected business direction for sure, because
Mhm.
when we started, we were doing what was called filling a gap, which means I was doing hardware sales, because nobody had a computer. Large
Mhm.
companies, nobody had computers on their desks. So it started with that, and then training on how to use them, etc. And then, of course, we got into the software end of it, which was accounting in particular. And of course, I'm a certified management accountant. So it was a great marriage of, hey, here's, you should be moving your accounting in-house and
Mhm.
starting to, process that way. And then, I really monitored trends after that. And of course, I'll never forget back in 1992, when it was called the information superhighway. It wasn't even the internet yet. And I started to hear, rumors of this upcoming technology. And I went to a bookstore, and because, the internet wasn't there, social
Right.
media wasn't there, I was advertising on the yellow pages. That's what we had. Um, And of course, along comes the internet, and that started the big change for us for sure.
Mhm,
Because now we were global. I actually had distribution of my software in most countries.
mhm,
And so then I decided, hey, we're going all in on the internet. This is the next big wave, and we did. And we were doing work for Walmart and J.C. Penney and major corporations and Toronto Dominion and Scotiabank and cities,
mhm,
government agencies, and we just went all in because they didn't understand what that was. So, again, moving with the trends, then social media starts to come out, like you say, fax technology came out, email came out, that wasn't a big thing. Then in 2006 I really moved all into internet marketing and leveraging email, website development, things of that nature. And it really just catapulted from there. So I love technology. I love the raging river that it is. It keeps me
mm,
excited, and it keeps me you know, really focused on how do we improve the lives of our clients and prospects by leveraging what is making life easier.
I love the term raging river because it creates this great visual of exactly what it's doing. Sometimes it's almost knocking us off our feet, but other times it really is, we're actually still in the lifeboat, and it is just pushing us into the next thing, and we just don't know what's around the corner, but we have to embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I have spent much of my time getting people to adopt technologies they really didn't want, right?
Hmm.
And so but it is always for the better, and so it's just a question of having them understand why that is.
Hmm. And what an interesting transition from the software and the hardware and that piece to really affecting people's lives as you're doing today.
Yeah, because we went from software development, which was great. We were just dealing with large corporations and companies at that point. But then I started to get to where I wanted to help entrepreneurs. I wanted to help
Mm.
small businesses more than the corporations. They had their thing going on, even though, pay was great, right? We'd make $1 million from a client.
Right.
But I really had this passion. And that's again kind of how legacy life started to evolve, which
Mhm.
became the thrust of I was not happy in the software arena serving the people that I was serving.
Mhm.
I was off my purpose, and entrepreneurs and helping others really deliver their message. Because I have this thing where you're on a mission, you have a purpose that only you can do, and that's my
Mhm.
mission, of course, is to help others accomplish theirs.
Mm. Yeah, the like off purpose.
Mhm.
Purpose is so important. And it really is. And it's funny because the last few conversations I've had with people, that word has come up. And the conversations have nothing to do with each other, but the word keeps showing up. And so I
Mhm.
guess maybe it's a message for me. I don't know. But having a purpose is so important. But realizing that you're off purpose, because so many people can be off purpose and just not know it.
Yeah, well, in my case, I knew it in the
Hmm.
sense that we weren't fulfilled from, we had all the money we needed, right? We had the clients, we had staff, we have had buildings, we had everything you'd ever want as a company except the happiness.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
we were traveling. All these things, gave the illusion of life is perfect, but
Hmm.
I was never happy doing what I was doing. And again, it wasn't until I made that switch into internet marketing and wrote my first book that I realized that, oh, this is it. I am loving this. This is like the juice that you get up in the morning for and you're super happy. Whereas my older life, I'll call it, in the software, was constant, support, tech support, tech support, tech support, and the scaling just seemed too difficult to get away from, but at the same time fulfill some sort of connected purpose. So really we pretty well, I won't say walked from that industry. It was a slow transition where we serviced our major clients until we didn't renew their contracts, and then
Mhm.
went all in on the entrepreneurial field.
Mm, mm. And it is such a common theme for the corporate environment to have those things that society tells us are the things that make us uh you have achieved where you need to be, the money, the position, that situation. But unfortunately, there's this underlying lack of happiness and purpose and
Mhm.
unfulfillment that happens, that just starts to erode at you until you're either drowning in it, or you can maybe raise your hand above the waters and say, help, rescue me, I've had enough.
Yeah, exactly. And the other compeller of that switch that we made
Mhm,
was, I got pregnant and started, having kids, right?
mhm,
And so we made a huge shift. As soon as I found out I was pregnant, I actually moved my office home, and we had 15 staff at the time in an office. And it was funny because one day I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait a minute, my husband needs to be here too. If we're going to co-raise our children, or at the
mm.
I mean, I didn't know where I was going with that child scenario, but it turns out I had 3 kids in 3 years, exactly the same month.
Holy
So
cow.
it was great that I actually started it with that first one, because Dave ultimately came home.
Mhm.
We opened up an office back in 1994. When this was
Wow.
done, we were ahead. We were like 20 years pretty much
20 years, yeah, at least.
of remote offices, of what the pandemic kind of made standard. We were already
Mhm.
standardized back in 1994 with that technology, and that was also pre-internet. We were
Mm,
we were using old bulletin boards to communicate. We were using all of this stuff, and then of course once the internet really started to gain ground, it became a heck of a lot easier for us to communicate with the 15 staff that we had. And so one, I have one child, then two child, then three children, and Dave and I are co-raising. And that is again where that shift of, wait, we can't make this company, the software industry, work
mhm,
with the new dynamic that we have. We want to be there for our children for all events and things of that nature. So that's where we then took that next step and said, what industry fits us being able to travel with our children anywhere in the world?
mm.
And of course, that moved again to that internet marketing arena, which really was a godsend, because I'd go and speak in Australia, and we would take all three kids, my husband, and we'd spend a month there, just enjoying, when I only had three speaking gigs at the time.
That's so fantastic.
Yeah, it was
And
great.
so forward thinking for both of you to be brave enough to be not normal
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
business arena.
We've never been normal.
Congratulations.
Everything you people talk about, we were on the other side of, in many cases.
Yeah, well done, well done. So let's talk about legacy life. And so this whole story has been building up to, in all of your experiences, personal and professionally, that have really built you and Dave into a situation to be able to offer the platform that you've created.
Exactly. So I had a near-death experience, which is where I
Mm,
received this message. You're on a mission, you have a purpose that only you can do.
wow.
And I realized that it was actually not meant just for me. It was meant for me to be the deliverer of. And
Mm,
that's really where the focus started to go. But I didn't have a way. We were living great, right? We were traveling all
mhm.
over the world. My kids have been Dubai and United Kingdom and Australia and Singapore and all of these amazing places with us. But I couldn't figure out how to duplicate this entire strategy that we were living, until
Mm,
ultimately I developed what was called the Legacy Life Flywheel. And finally, I got it down to these 8 very precise steps that I was able to take somebody through, so that they could accomplish, that kind of 7 figures in 2 years goal, and then continue to not only, really promote philanthropy amongst this, but to deliver from that state of abundance.
Wow, I love that. So not only are you making a difference as far as the your clients in their career, but you're encouraging them to have that mindset to think past the me and the us
Yeah.
to the everyone, and how can you make a difference?
And that's actually step 7 before you hit,
Hmm.
just before the financial freedom of the 8 steps. Step
Hmm.
7 is philanthropy, and it's like, okay, we're about to go into the, you can have what you want, when you want, where you want, with who you want. And so now, before that, what cause, what element do you want to focus on to really make the world a better place?
Can you share the 8 steps with us? Just a brief overview of them?
Oh, for sure. So the first step starts with clarity, and that's actually
Hmm.
clarity on your signature offer. What are you
Hmm.
going to be providing for somebody, and who are you providing that to? Right? What we call kind of that right fit audience. And what are your
Hmm.
financial goals? So we establish that. The second step then moves into the ability to have focus. And that means focus on just your right fit client and that one offer, right? Remove
Mm.
everything else. You can get rid of your
It
all.
takes out the noise.
It takes out the noise, the social media, all of these pieces. We actually go back to old school, back to my 1985 beginnings, and we're starting to use the phone because we're going to laser focus
Mm.
on who it is that we want to serve, because that's what this is starting to move towards, right? Serving that person that's part of your mission. And then we move into community. So the third step is building that community and really enhancing them and supporting them. And then the fourth step, once you've got your signature offer in place, you've got focus on your audience, and you've built that place where they can congregate. Now we add that visibility. Most people are like, I want to get seen. Well, why? What's your message, right?
Gotta put that TikTok out right away.
Exactly. Like you need to go back to step 1, clarity, and ensure that you have your entire message formulated so that you can, of course, attract that right fit client, and then there's a reason for your visibility now.
Mhm.
And what's interesting, I've been, as far as visibility is concerned, I've been on 22 major television networks. Like I said, 47 countries I've spoken. 3 motivational movies. Uh, I've had almost every element of visibility in my life, but we get it down to one major element, because when you focus on this visibility, not only do you raise your credibility, your authority, and your leadership perception, but now you're developing that exceptional brand identity, which will allow us to scale. And that step is about
Mm.
to come. So once we got the visibility, then we move into the systems. This is another place where particularly women entrepreneurs get bogged down. They start
Mhm.
implementing funnels and websites and landing pages and all of this technology, when really we don't even have the core in place to need that yet. We're not going
Mm.
and serving 1,000 people right out of the gates. We're going to serve anywhere from 3 to 10 people so that we can get the process that we need in place. So now we know how to go bigger. How do we scale? Which of course that becomes step 6, which is the scaling. And
And
the
I can see how that can be a limiting thought, right? So if you're thinking, I'm not ready for the 1,000 people or the 100 people, that could put the brakes on for the momentum that you've built, because you're so hung up on I'm not ready, where of course you're not ready. You don't
Yes,
need to be
exactly.
ready either.
That's right, because people start at that starting line and they're like, oh my
Hmm.
God, I need thousands. No, we need 10. This whole
Hmm.
system focuses on your first 3 and then your next 7 to build
Hmm.
this thing of 10. Then we implement systems. Almost all of the systems I implement with people are free. So we can't
Mm.
even talk about the fact that, oh, I can't afford anything. Well, if you're buying a whole pile of systems and you're spending a lot of money, it's like, what for, right? And again,
And you don't even know if the system is the right one that you're buying.
correct. That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and that's a big part of, you know, scaling too, right? Then we move, once we get these, what I call the 7 core systems in place. And
Mhm.
yes, CRM is one of those, right? That contact relation management, that ability to email. Now we need to start bulk emailing,
Mhm.
um, and simplifying the communication streams, not just within our client base now, but of course for the reach out. Then we move into the scaling. So here's the thing. Everyone thinks I can't scale my company. This is too big. No, what we're scaling is a workshop. That's what we're going to
Mm.
scale. And when I talk back to visibility, that's our secret sauce right there. We're going to do a workshop, 4-hour workshop. It's going to have your message and your offer so tight that when you get
Mhm.
to that scaling part, you just continue to do the presentation of that workshop. But even better, we're going to now bring on joint venture and affiliate partners. So all
Mhm.
they have to do is promote a workshop and a low cost, right? And then
Mhm.
they can get that commission or referral based on what you close now and or in the future for that customer that they brought in. So we're no longer depending on us to get the message out, which is why
Mhm.
all of this other stuff, the social media, all of this other stuff, if you want to do it, you want to go speak on stages, you want to do all of these other things, by all means do that as part of
Mhm.
your strategy, but don't make it the only way that you can convert, right? So we have to
Mm.
watch and you know, how did I learn this the hard way? Well, 2 years of a calendar was fully and ultimately booked. My sales came from me selling from the stage, right? Well,
Mhm.
pandemic hits, 2 years of the calendar is wiped, right? And
Immediately.
is, of course, all of my friends who were also speakers and completely dependent on that as a way to make the money. So
Mhm.
you want to watch things that are dependent on something of that scale that may we don't know what's coming down the pipeline again. So always be ready to scale. What do we need to scale? We're going to scale the workshop. We're going to do it through partners, those joint venture
Mhm.
partners. Why? They're always going to be there, right?
Mhm.
Unless the internet shuts down, pretty much, you're going to still have access to that. So, which means your business can grow and scale regardless of the economy. Then
Mhm.
we move into philanthropy. That's step 7. So in this, what you're doing here is you're going to select that cause. What are you passionate about? Most people already know this, right? A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I wish I did this. I wish I could provide more for this, or more time, more resources, more funding, whatever. We start to incorporate that now into the business. Your
Mhm.
workshop, ticket sales, for example, will go to a philanthropy of your choosing. And so then they get that and you get the rest. Or later, as you grow even more, you can choose projects. You can choose to give a percent of your sales, whatever you want to do. That's up to you. It's just making it mindful now, as
Mm.
part of your give back to society. And then the last step, of course, is freedom. It's that legacy moment where you do what you want, when you want, where you want, with who you want, and you're able to deliver from your abundance. That's the big difference, between, like, legacy life and somebody who's always giving and always philanthropic. If you're doing it from an empty tank, it's really
Mhm.
just going to possibly lead to exhaustion and overwhelm,
Sure.
all of these
And
things
and burnout.
and burnout. So many,
Mhm.
especially women,
No
experience
matter, yeah, no matter how passionate you are about what you're doing,
that.
that can go away so quickly if you are just exhausted and
Exactly.
discouraged.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Mhm.
those are those 8 steps. And when you hit that last step, right, we're not done. We're not going to go back to that clarity moment, because you're going to be a
Mm.
whole different person when you reach that level. So we want,
Mhm.
like, what's your clarity now? What would your offer be now? Who's your target market now? What are your financial goals now? And
Mhm.
who do you want to serve? And the answers could be identical, and that's okay. We're just
Mhm.
putting in check marks to ensure that you are constantly evolving and
Mhm.
really reaching that higher kind of self fulfillment philosophy that we have with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're accomplishing that self awareness.
And that re-look back on the wheel gives the business an opportunity to evolve and grow and change as needs change, or as it allows it to not remain stagnant.
Exactly. Yeah, because if you're staying the same, you're actually going to go down. There's just
Mhm.
it's just that's that, whether
It's
it
not a matter of if, it's when.
exactly, that's the I call that kind of that Newton's law of motion, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And interesting. And so now this process, from what I'm hearing from you, it's really applicable to many different industries.
It's almost applicable certainly to coaching, certainly to consulting, to speaking, to
Mhm.
entrepreneurialism. I haven't I I've tested this, or I haven't tested it yet, but I've developed this exact same philosophy for within a corporation. It's just
Mhm.
the undertoning notes are different, right?
Mhm.
Clarity in their message, their vision, their purpose, their mission, right?
Mhm.
Focus is ensuring that everybody within the company knows that. So there's the exact model is the same, but the underlying flow is just a slightly different for corporations and companies.
Mhm. That makes sense. And when somebody's saying, gee, I think that I need to have this guidance, when in their business is the right time? Or is there not a wrong time?
Well, in a way, there's not a wrong time. It's a question of, are you willing to believe in yourself enough that what you're about to do will work, or
Mm.
you believe in yourself to invest in yourself, right? Because it's going to take that investment to start and to really get that catapult. I remember when the very first event I went to in internet marketing, and I was like, okay, like what do I do, right? What's next? And even though I knew the logic stream of what was next, I had to seek out that mentor. And so, I put probably 100 grand on credit cards in the first 4 months of getting into the internet marketing arena. I didn't have them have that kind of money per se, just sitting around. So, you put it on, I put it on multiple credit cards, knowing and believing in myself that,
Mhm.
okay, I can make this happen because that mentor is going to help me with this. That mentor is going to help me with that. That mentor is going to help me with this. So that's the way I had it. So really, just understanding that there is a cost to jumping in on board to getting that mentor and coach that
Mhm.
you really need. That's primarily the biggest thing. So would you do that at the beginning of your company? Heck, that's the best place to do it. You're not
Mhm.
reversing anything. But would you do it, later in the company? Let's say you're already making 1 million, 2 million. Well, absolutely, because now we can also streamline this. Let's say you
Mhm.
haven't quite hit six figures yet, which is the area most women sit between that 60 and $110,000. Well, now let's really refine this. Let's really get this in place and get you the system and structure that you need to ensure that you're going to hit that 7 figure mark in 2 years or less.
Mm. That's amazing. And the focus, what you're doing is you're really giving people the tools that they probably already know. You're not but they don't know how to, they don't know they know.
In a way, yes. I think one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest um, uh, elements that I bring to the table, or the philosophy that I run by, is you are of massive value. You're
Mhm.
undervaluing yourself all the time,
Mhm.
especially women. This is primarily whatever you're charging is not enough. And what it tends to happen is, as you lower your prices, or as you stay in that middle road of, let's say, $5,000 for your coaching program, you're not elevating yourself to that authority status, to the prestige, to that pioneer positioning, to that really exceptional brand identity that you need to, in order to ensure that you're at the top, people see you're at the top, and they understand the value of you. And that
Mhm.
means a real premium price. I'm talking about, like, let's say the $100,000 range, right? Now,
Mhm.
almost everyone I say this to says, there's no way on earth I can charge 100 grand. And I'm like, okay, here's how we do it and why you can. It's a 5-stage program, and it's based on performance and success, which means they pay an initial price up front, but you don't pay for stage 2, 3, 4, and 5 until you've hit, in my case, until you hit financial benchmarks, until you've made that first 100,000,
Mhm.
that first 300,000, the first 500,000, and for the first, and your first million. Until you've hit those benchmarks, you don't pay me another dime, right? And so
Mhm.
that's how you organize your program, is in these 5 performance-based stages that underlie this $100,000. And I think there's 2 things here. One is you're confident in the results that you can produce for somebody. So therefore you can say, hey, you don't pay me if I don't perform with you, right? The
Mhm.
second
Mhm.
element is most programs, most premium priced offers are around the $10,000 mark anyway. But what happens is you say to somebody 10,000 and they ceiling at that. So when you
Mhm.
say to them, okay, now we need some more money for the next level, right? They're like, no, wait, I thought I was going to get this. No, you weren't going to. This is us being truthful. This is us saying, look, it's
Mhm.
100 grand, but we're going to do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. The great part
Mhm.
about this is you're never nickel and dining. You're not paying out of your pocket. You're paying out of profits for all future steps.
Mhm.
And the important part here is you're ensuring that that person knows their exact next step. Yay, we finished stage 1. You've hit a benchmark. Now you owe, let's say, the next 12,500. Okay, good. Here's this, here's that. You're continuing the process, and you're not stopping, and they're not sitting around looking for the next coach to satisfy what they need, because you've given
Mm.
them everything you need under one umbrella, and you've priced it based on the benchmarks that you're saying they will reach, and then ultimately pay you, and they know when they're going to reach it and when they have reached it, and then therefore pay you that next step. They're more than happy to do that because they've made
Mhm.
that next goal. This, then I talked about the Newton's law of motion. This is like skipping that stone, right? Skip, 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 skip. That's phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're skipping a stone.
Mhm.
When you say I'm 10 grand and you skip a stone, then it plunks to the bottom. Now you're trying to get them to sign the next thing. There's no, all momentum is gone. You get them back up, maybe they
Mhm.
resign, and you start them again, but you're not in motion anymore. And so now, instead of them continuing the progress forward with full clarity, they're getting stuck, and they're getting 2, 3 months of a gap of that momentum to get it back in place again.
And you're also continually trying to sell them.
Correct. That's right. Because
And that's just an awful place to be.
horrible.
There's
It's
nothing
harder and harder.
that stops the motivation and its momentum, true, but it also stops that inner motivation. And oh, now I have to do this, and then I have to find 5 other people to do this, and then I'm going to, another few months I'm going to have to redo this again, and it's this negative wheel that's
Yep.
continuous. But if you're setting the expectation, number one, you believe in yourself, and you
Yep.
believe that your platform is worthy,
Hmm.
and that is a huge step. But you're also setting that expectation that it's going to be in these levels. And when you're talking about it, I pictured in my head, I pictured stairs. And so you're actually, the first few stairs is this piece here, and
Yep.
knowing that we have other levels to work for. So you're setting that expectation of not only the money piece, but I think more importantly, the money's important, but not in the scheme of everything. What you're doing is you're setting that expectation of continued learning and
Yep.
continued elevation for the person's business that you're working with.
Exactly. Exactly. And then what also doesn't happen is sometimes, let's say a client renews with you 2 or 3 times. Somehow there then becomes this, killer of the relationship, really.
Yes,
Oftentimes
yes.
there's just like, now both people have resistance. Oh God, they're calling me for something.
Uh,
Oh, I
and I'm
gotta
gonna
call
have to
them.
say yes, because what else am I gonna do? Oh my word. Yeah.
Exactly, that's right. Or every time I talk to them, they're wanting money, whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
And so it becomes a resistance, instead of both of you rowing that boat in the same direction. all the entire time,
Yep.
that's how we
And
get that greater
you're
success.
able to say, congratulations, you have completed this
Correct.
first step. Now it's time for you to move on to the next step. And there's no
Exactly.
selling that happens.
There's no selling. And here's the even better part of, with the model that I've created. That next step, you're clear on what they're going to get at that
Hmm.
level, right? Okay, hey,
Right.
now we're moving on to I'll call it the impact philanthropy section where we're going to create that workshop, right? So
Hmm.
in my case, I call that the money making machine stage 3. We're moving on to stage 3. So we build that for them, right? So there
Hmm.
isn't just a, hey, we're continuing the relationship. There's deliverables along the way. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to build that 4-hour workshop for you. We're going to get it all in place. We're going to get the website set up. All you need to do is come on and make that, get some people to attend and start that process of presenting and getting really grooved in on your message and inviting people to join. So this too is the incredible difference between a program and what we're doing here. And that is the invitation to join is apply, qualify, and award. You're about to
Mm.
spend, let's say, 2 years with somebody to get them to a very precise benchmark through 5 different stages. So they apply and let's say they apply with whatever. We do a $1,250 deposit. Then it's qualify. Do they qualify?
Mhm.
And what does that mean? That means that we're assessing everything that they have right now and their dreams, goals, etc. And
Mhm.
can we help them accomplish this? If I can't get you to that finish line, you don't qualify. And not because
Mm.
not because your idea isn't great, it's because I can't get you to a finish line that I am committing my reputation on, right?
Mhm.
So then step 3 is award. And at that moment, it's like, oh my God, I can totally crush this for you. We can do this. I'm going to award you a spot in my program. And
Mm.
because at that moment, you're going to be spending a lot of time with that person. And so you want to ensure that you're excited about helping them to accomplish their goal. You believe in their goal, you believe in them. And
Mhm.
so it's not just, hey, good, you got the money, awesome, let's go. No, it's an awarding of the position.
Excuse me, it is really, really relationship building within that process too, because you have to make sure that it's a good fit on both sides.
Exactly, that's right.
Because
They
you're going to be
love
asking a
you
lot
get
of the people and they're going to have to deliver a lot as well. So there has to be that symbiotic relationship that's going to make it work.
yeah, yeah,
It's fantastic. Tracy,
yeah.
this is amazing. And I can really see how everything that you've done in your life and thinking outside of the box with your business has given you the tools to create this legacy life program to impact others and their businesses and giving them an opportunity to make a difference, not just for themselves, but for everyone else. And I love that attitude and that attitude of passing that on too.
Awesome.
That's amazing. So now how do people get in touch with you? Well, don't answer that yet. So for my question before that is, um, can you think of 1 or 2 different thoughts if people are thinking something about their business that it would be the right time to contact you? And then how do they contact you?
Well, okay, so the first question is, or actually I'm going to reverse it a little bit.
Okay, you
Go
go right ahead.
to legacylifequiz.com and
Hmm.
take the quiz. It's 60 seconds, okay? It asks questions specific to the positionings of the wheel, right? And it
Hmm.
allows us based on your score to know exactly where you are, right? From that point, we get our thing and you get a personal report. We get a notification, you've taken the quiz, here's your score. You get a report that says 2 things. What should you be working on next? Should you be working on community? Should you be working on visibility? Or are you back at income, right? Or,
Hmm. Hmm.
wherever you are, and then it gives you the steps on what do you do next. Then you can choose at that point, if you're like, oh, I love this technology, I love this philosophy, I'd love to find out more, then you can schedule a call with us. And it's called the Legacy Life Call. We actually go through the process of where you are, where you want
Hmm.
to go, and can we get you there? Right. And then let's say after that call, you're like, I'm loving this. you know, this looks something like I want to do, then great. Then we move to a strategy call. On that strategy call, I'm going to look at the specifics of your business, and we're going to come up with that premium priced offer. Can we create a premium priced offer based on this philosophy and get you to where you want to go? It's super simple, but it all starts with the quiz. And the best part is you don't need to know where you are. One, the quiz will tell us, but more
Oh, beautiful.
importantly, you could have this super idea you just haven't implemented yet because maybe you're paying the bills. Maybe you're focused on, like I was with the software industry, right? Maybe you're just doing something because it makes the money, but you're
Mhm.
ready for that transition out. Well, you can run both simultaneously. The beautiful part about what we do, we don't touch your current business. We only ask for 4 hours a week for you to
Mm.
be able to implement at the speed. If you don't have 4 hours, you don't have it. It just is a slower launch. But we're, you know, all you need to do is find that little bit of extra time, 2 hours a week with me.
Mhm.
And then an hour a week with a productivity session, which means we're working on the call. We're not chitter chattering. You're actually got your head down and you're working on what you're supposed to be working on. And then that 1 hour for just putting some stuff together that we can review. That's all we ask. And that's going to just get you to where you want to be.
Amazing. Amazing. And website?
LegacyLifeQuiz.com.
Wonderful. Tracy, thank you. Thank you so much for what you do. And thank you for being here to share your story.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show was sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me. And if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.